Welcome back to GameScoop, everybody. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. I'm joined today by Greg Miller,
Yo!
Ryan McCaffrey, and Rich George. So, back in the day, exclusives were the most important part of a console's library.
Arguably.
They were the selling point of the console. I had to have both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis because they both had very different games.
God forbid you missed Toe Jam and Earl.
I know.
You didn't, did you? You had to have it.
You had to. Gotta get
Today,
Genesis.
the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 libraries are very similar. So
Yeah.
similar, I would argue that most people probably don't need to own both of those systems. Nintendo is the exception. They're still very
Yeah.
But so that leads us to the question today. You know, as we're new consoles are imminent, do exclusives still matter?
The answer is, Damon, and we can end this right afterwards,
Okay.
is yes.
The end.
But they're on the cusp of being completely irrelevant. They still
matter
They
now.
still have a little
Yeah.
bit of relevancy, but it's about to be just like,
So
who cares?
explain yourself.
Well, the example I always go to, and I was talking about it yesterday, right, is the fact that Sony goes out of their way to have these exclusives, right? They own all these first-party studios that can only make games for them. Uncharted, Last of Us, that's the same studio, that doesn't really count. But Killzone, you see where I'm driving at. They have all these titles, God of War, that are theirs. Only we have these, and we're putting them out all the time. And last year they put out an awesome exclusive, or a great exclusive, about every month, and most of them did not sell.
Yeah,
it didn't put PlayStation light years ahead of Xbox.
Is that a marketing problem though, Greg? Because you look at, Microsoft has this almost the polar opposite strategy of, okay, we're all about our key pillars, our Fable, which, okay, last year was the weird spin-off Kinect game that didn't go anywhere, but Forza, which does well in sort of a fairly niche community. I mean, there's the Forza Gran Turismo debate, which is a whole other show, but and then it's Gears and Halo, and with Halo, Microsoft created a massive event out of Halo that transcended time and space. And they've done that with the past Gears games too. And as good as Uncharted is, and as good as those PlayStation games are, I mean, Heavy Rain, PlayStation All-Stars this year, you didn't see it everywhere. It doesn't seem like they really did the push.
No, that's what
They're
Microsoft dominates at. Microsoft is awesome at marketing their games, and we go see movies all the time because we're best friends. And you get there and we see the Gears trailer.
Yeah.
We see these trailers for these huge games. People know, just like not at all first-party exclusive, I'm aware, but Homefront, right? Homefront was this push that like everyone knew about Homefront. Even if you weren't into video games, you saw these Homefront ads everywhere, and eventually figured out it was a video game that you didn't want to play. Right.
What's interesting to me is like these exclusives seem almost like marketing machines of themselves, not so much for the games, but it's just like that's what distinguishes PlayStation from Xbox for me. It's just like, oh, that's the Uncharted console, and this is the Halo console. But then all I really want to buy are the third-party games for that particular environment, which is sort of interesting. I mean, increasingly it just feels like you're buying it for the services and the sort of like who that's on those consoles.
That's exactly right. You play Xbox because your friends play on Xbox, and you come to Xbox for Live, and that's why. I mean, that's Microsoft's Trojan horse for this next-gen console that's probably coming this fall is, the PlayStation 4, the rumors are it might be a bit more powerful than the Durango is, but people are going to stick with Xbox because they're not going to want to give up their gamer store.
My Call of Duty clan is there.
Yep,
your
buddies and your achievements.
It's also about hardware, right? I just prefer the Xbox controller, that's what makes me more of an Xbox gamer today, not the game library.
I mean, I feel like Microsoft was very smart, and they realized many, many years ago that services were going to dominate the industry more than actually the content, and that financially you have to release as wide as possible. And we just saw that happen twice this week with Ninja Gaiden Razor's Edge and Rayman Legends, where they're publishers, third-party publishers are saying like it does not make sense to limit this game, which costs millions and millions of dollars, to one platform with an install base of whatever. Better to serve all 150 million plus. Why? It doesn't make any sense if you're a third publisher. Why would you limit yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on my friends list and lots of people's friend list at any time and see probably at least a third of them playing Netflix.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Even though you can get Netflix on any device now, you can get it on the Wii, you can get it on the PS3. Microsoft was out in front of that, and they really positioned it. Oh, your Xbox that's already in your living room hooked up to your big TV. You can just do your Netflix right on that, no problem.
When PlayStation 3 was getting its momentum, when I first started at IGN, people would talk, Peter Dilley would talk about this is going to be the entertainment hub of your living room. And they talked and talked and talked about it, and Microsoft did it. Microsoft wasn't talking, they were doing it, and they were putting it out there, and they were putting it so when you turned on your box, the first thing you saw is Netflix is now available. This is happening, blah, blah.
And Sony was there early when it was DVDs and even a little bit
Yeah.
for Blu-rays,
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
that was the service that mattered.
Back in the day, I just bought a PlayStation 2 and I used it as my DVD player.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and then Microsoft realized that, well, it's actually a little more than just playing some discs because not as many people buy discs anymore. They want to stream. They want to do all these other things.
Yeah.
And so, kudos to Microsoft. They figured it out. So.
Now, Nintendo arguably has, definitely has the strongest lineup of, of exclusive titles.
Sure.
What does it mean for them today?
They do something very different, and you're sort of seeing the results of that with Wii U right now. Nintendo wants to do something very different. They're going down a very different path, but that increasingly is seemingly alienating them from third parties. Third parties need
Again.
Yeah.
For the fourth console in a row.
Yeah, how
always
many
say-
times
Yeah.
have I read this
They always
story?
say,
What
yeah.
year is it?
I mean, that's the weird thing is Nintendo is now, unless something remarkably changes, Nintendo is going to have to rely on itself, and it is probably in the best position to rely on itself out of all the first parties.
That's true.
It can rely on itself. But when it wants a third-party game or it wants something from a different developer, they're going to have to go publish it. They're going to have to go make that partnership. It's an interesting strategy. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the question is, can you come up with the quantity of games that you need to sustain a platform with that strategy?
Right.
And remains to be seen. I mean, Wii U is doing okay, not great. It's certainly behind Wii. We obviously saw 2 third-party exclusives just jump ship just now, and Ninja Gaiden was published by Nintendo in some of the territories. So, does that strategy work? We'll find out. I mean, that's
Of course,
exactly what
the
they're
difference
trying.
is Sony and Microsoft are 2 monolithic companies that do a billion different things. Nintendo
Yeah,
just
just-
makes video
yeah.
games. So if they
That's
make
why they were profitable.
if they
for
make
long
a
time.
profit, maybe they don't care.
Yeah,
about
I
what-
mean, they showed it with the 3DS. I mean, we saw them do the exact same thing with the 3DS where they struggled and struggled and struggled, and then their own content has started to lead to success. I mean, they took over Japan with the 3DS. It's still the #1 selling platform there. It's doing pretty well here.
Yep.
But does that portable strategy apply to a home console, which costs a lot more, to develop a game and takes a lot more time?
I think it does. I think you're going to see the same thing. We already talked about. I mean, the news is out, right? That at E3 this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're showing Zelda. They're showing
Mario.
Is Smash being shown, or is it just
Smash? So Smash will be revealed in some sort of state. Mario and Mario Kart will be playable.
Yeah.
And we'll get Wind Waker HD should be there in some form. And then there's the new Zelda that's sort of lurking
They're going to
out
do
there.
exactly what they did with the 3DS, where they're like they had this weird, nobody likes their system. Then they showed all these games. Then they were like, price drop, and here are all the games.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna. That's
And
all
I'm
I'm waiting
jumping
for.
in.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm
A
in.
new Mario Kart? Yes, I will buy a
I mean,
Wii
that's
U.
the thing is like once they start really driving the Smash hype machine, everyone's like, yes, please give me that. And I mean, that's the weird thing about Nintendo is they think about games differently. They always have for decades. Some say that they still think the same way as they did 30 years ago, but regardless, they think very differently than everybody else. And that's the blessing and the curse for Nintendo, right? Like
Right.
you buy it for their games because their games are unlike anybody el's, but that means
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
don't have everything else.
Nintendo has the killer apps. Microsoft literally has the killer apps. Not as much games anymore. It's not not necessarily buying it for Halo. You're buying it for Xbox
So that's what
Live.
I wonder. When these new systems are launched in the fall, what's the selling point?
Yep, this year is going to be fascinating. We were just talking
It
about this
already is,
last
yeah.
night. Is that what are these systems going to come out and say they do to make people buy them? Everyone's so happy playing games on their phone right now.
Yeah.
Graphics aren't enough. You can't come out and show Uncharted 4, Killzone 4, and be like, look, it's amazing. It's great.
Give me
It's awesome."
$500.
Exactly.
Well, and especially in a transitional year, right? You remember when 360 and PS3 came out, you were kind of like, well, those are good, but I don't really see why I'm buying Perfect Dark Zero. What am I doing with this? And so, I think this year is going to be fascinating too, because if you're a third-party publisher, same thing. Are you going to go sit there and develop something just for PS4 and whatever the next Xbox is, and just be like, well, I hope they sell enough units that I'll make some money on it, or are you going to sell it on 360 and PS3 and new Xbox and new PlayStation? Scalability.
When you start talking about this, and we have this conversation about like what are they going to do, and there's this niche market over here. I really see it. What we talk about all the time about when we're talking about we're moving towards a unified platform, and this is the last console cycle. And all these questions and all these topics of conversation point you that way, right? Everything is going to be a niche market. We talk about what is the PlayStation 4 going to do that's going to make us buy it? And like the rumor out that we've heard, right, is that at any time you can pause out and see the last 15 minutes of gameplay and
the
cut it up
sharing
and
stuff,
send it up to YouTube. And it's like, all right, that's really cool for the kids who like to do that, but like
What about the rest
A
of us?
lot of people don't care. The person who just has their 360 to play Call of Duty with their friends is going to look at that and be like, I've never played Call of Duty and been like, holy shit.
Yeah, what exactly is that webcaster audience? Like,
Exactly.
what's that population look like?
It seems like
you know?
we're getting, the console gaming is getting more and more insulated as far as like, we're the hardcore gamers and this is what we do. And
That's what
meanwhile,
It'll still be the software though, like Bungie's new game, which is called Destiny. There were those court documents leaked from that lawsuit with Infinity Ward, and apparently, according to those contracts, that game's going to be really leading on next-gen platforms this fall. I expect at E3 that game's going to be the centerpiece of Microsoft's showcase. But it's also going to release on 360 for that giant installed base. But
You can't afford it otherwise. Like,
exactly.
it would
But
be
if they
crazy.
start, with the Destiny, with a next-gen Call of Duty, those games might come out on the current-gen platforms. But if they have additional content, if they have more multiplayer features and maps on the new systems, that's gonna be like, well, all my buddies we want to play on those maps. So all right, let's get these. Let's get these.
yeah, but I mean, we
consoles.
say that and it sounds good, but then remember like Madden, like the Madden 360 that came out, it was just awful. It had like none of the features. It was totally a rush
Well,
job.
but it also came out. Everyone had already bought Madden that year because it
Sure.
came out in August. Then the system with the new Madden came out in November. So who knows?
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch Microsoft over the past generation because I feel like, and it's very high level, they kept doing very smart things where DLC is coming to this game first. This, you're getting these maps first. You're getting this offering first. It was never the game, but it was the life cycle of the game was
Yeah,
longer
the
on
tail.
360 first. And so I got my Call of Duty, and if I got it on PS3, I'm sitting there with nothing new to play. And meanwhile, all the guys on Xbox 360 are like, "Holy crap! I've got new maps.
Yep.
Come over here, guys. Let's play this." And it was just, and it wasn't any one game. It was the repetition of that idea.
Too bad
over
I got
years.
Dead Space Extraction with Dead Space 2 on PS3.
Really interesting stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. What do you guys think about exclusives today? Continue the conversation in the comments, and IGN Games Group will be back soon with more video game discussion.
Ooh!